Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Enduring Long COVID. I'm Sherry, and today I want to tell you about the day everything changed, the day I got COVID, the day my life split into a before and an after. At the time, I had no idea what was happening. I didn't know that years later I would still be dealing with symptoms. I didn't know I was about to become a long COVID patient. I just knew something wasn't right. I was working at the hospital. I was a nurse. I had worked long hours before. I knew what being tired felt like, but this was different. Before I left work on Saturday, March the 7th of 2020 at 7:30 a.m., I ran into the night shift supervisor and spoke with him and the front desk clerk for a few minutes. By the end of the conversation, I started feeling strange. I felt exhausted. Not normal exhaustion. Not the kind of tired that comes from a busy shift. This felt deeper. I remember going home and laying down. And I never got back up. I just couldn't understand why I was so tired. I kept thinking maybe I just needed rest. Maybe I had overdone it. Maybe I wasn't sleeping enough. I had no idea that COVID was already taking hold. Monday, March the 9th of 2020, I had something planned. I was taking a motorcycle class. Despite feeling terrible, I went anyway. Looking back, I laugh because that's exactly what nurses do. We convince ourselves we're fine. We push through, we keep going. So I showed up. But from the moment I got there, something felt wrong. The instructor was talking. People around me seemed to be understanding what he was saying, but I couldn't follow the conversation. I couldn't understand why I couldn't process the information. I couldn't understand why my brain wasn't working. I couldn't understand why I was struggling to keep up. Then there was the shortness of breath. I remember feeling like I couldn't get enough air. I couldn't understand why my heart was racing. I couldn't understand why I felt uncomfortable. Everything felt off. But I kept pushing. I kept pushing, and I kept trying to make sense of it. Then we moved outside to the riding course, and that's when things got even worse. I remember looking at my Apple Watch. It kept pinging saying that my heart rate was elevated. It was in the 160s, 165 beats per minute, and I wasn't running a marathon. I wasn't anxious. I was just trying to learn motorcycle skills. I couldn't understand what was happening. I couldn't understand why I was struggling to breathe. I couldn't understand why I couldn't hear properly. I couldn't understand why my body felt completely out of control, but I kept going because when you don't know what's wrong, you keep trying to power through. I made it all the way to the final skill exercise. The male instructor was on the obstacle course yelling at me. I couldn't hear him. Then I couldn't shift my mind from the yelling back to operating the motorcycle. And then everything fell apart. I lost control of the motorcycle. I ran off the course, down a hill, into a valley, back up another hill, and into a gate. The female instructor approached me and she looked at me and said, "Needless to say, this class is over for you. Go home." At the time, it was embarrassing, but looking back, my body had been trying to tell me something all day. It had been trying to tell me something before I even left work. I just didn't know how to listen yet. I went home and I didn't get better. That's the part that stands out to me now. I expected to recover. I expected to wake up feeling normal. I expected the exhaustion to pass, but it didn't. I became so sick I couldn't go back to work. I had to call off. And when I did, they asked me what symptoms I was having, so I told them. I told them about the exhaustion, the shortness of breath, the racing heart, the loss of smell, the loss of taste, and all the other symptoms I was experiencing. And that's when they said something that would change my life. They told me that I had symptoms consistent with long COVID and that I now had to be on quarantine. At that moment, I thought I had an illness. I had no idea I was beginning a journey. I had no idea that years later I would still be talking about that day. I had no idea that one infection could change so much, but it did. That day was the beginning of everything. Everything that came after. That was the beginning of long COVID. The beginning of learning how to live in a body that no longer followed the rules. The beginning of grief, adaptation, resilience, and advocacy. And the beginning of enduring long COVID. Thank you for listening. And if you're someone who remembers the exact moment your life changed, I want you to know you're not alone. I'll see you next time. Take care.